This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Second to remember the name of the podcast.
Were you about to speak for Mike?
I kind of was. Sort of.
Hi, I'm Mike White at MikeWhiteTwitter.com.
That's what we should do. Anytime we have a guest on, we should have the guest say, I am Mike White. You can find me at I am Mike White on Twitter.
That'd be pretty funny.
That would be funny. We'll remember that for next time. Anyway, welcome to the Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find back episodes at ovpodcast.com. Check out the blog at obsessiveviewer.com. And also subscribe to the subreddit at r/obsessiveviewer. Today we are joined by a returning guest, a frequent guest, Mr. Robert Fekkes. Hi, Robert Fekkes.
Hello.
I always call you Fekkes.
You what?
I always call you Fekkes. I stumbled and I said, hello, Robert Fekkes.
It's very divided whether people call me Robert or Fekkes, but I like Fekkes, so thank you for having me back.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for accepting our offer to talk about comedy sequels, which is the topic today. Which actually, before we get started on it, I do want to mention that I'm so horrible with putting in the plugs here at the beginning lately. But anyway, Shocktober in Irvington is happening again. We've been talking it up. For those of you that don't know and are in the Indianapolis area, Shocktober in Irvington is a one-night event celebrating local filmmakers and the horror genre in Irvington. It's a one-night event where we're renting out the Irving Theater on October 16th, and we're screening short films, doing giveaways, raffles, and Q&As with the filmmakers. And we're also going to be screening the documentary about the Central State hauntings called, aptly, Central State by Dan T. Hall. More information for that and ticket sales are at shocktoberinirvington.com. So the topic today is comedy sequels, and it's kind of apropos of nothing, really. It's just something that I thought of just while I was getting ready for work one morning. But over the last couple of years, we've had some pretty notable comedy sequels come out, like especially ones long after the original was released. And it kind of made me think, what do you guys think that there's a difference between a regular sequel and a comedy sequel? I mean, is there something inherent about comedy sequels that makes it harder to produce a quality one? Because I feel like, comedy is one of the more subjective pieces of entertainment, and if you strike gold once, I feel like it's a lot harder to strike it twice. In terms of comedy. So how do you guys feel about, are you guys more reticent to see a comedy sequel than you are another sequel, a superhero sequel, or anything like that?
I say so. Mainly because with comedy sequels, when something strikes, a lot of times the sequel, they just try to rehash what worked really well for the first one. And that's, to me, normally the downfall of a comedy sequel. Because we've seen it, good, you did it better the first time.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing is that comedy sequels are almost always, they're just cash grabs. Mm-hmm. They're almost never planned. There's hardly any comedy sequels you can name that were actually planned, as compared to like a superhero trilogy. They're talking about everything's a trilogy now. Yeah. And, they plan them out to an extent, but comedy sequels, they're almost never planned, and I think you can tell.
That's true. There is no Dumb and Dumber shared universe or anything.
Right.
Todd Phillips tried to say that he originally intended the Hangover series to be a trilogy. I have a hard time buying that, though.
Yeah, me too.
No, nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't think to bring up any of the Hangover movies. I did not like the second one.
They're pretty not rehashed, but they've been over. People have gone over those.
Oh, yeah. And I love the first one, but, those other two,
I don't know. I like the third one. I thought
Me too.
Really?
Actually,
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was pretty funny.
I think that they changed up enough, and I thought the jokes. I thought it was kind of a good black comedy.
Yeah, I think that's part of why I didn't connect with it, is I was not expecting that. Like, there was some sequences in there that it kind of went just full on drama or even thriller, and I was like, it just was off putting to me. I did really like the in the second one. The one thing I liked about it was the the chase sequence. I thought was at least filmed really well.
Ironic is like, what did you love about that comedy? The car chase,
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the Hangover series is one that I really like the first one, but the other two I didn't like. I'm surprised to hear you guys like the third one. So.
Yeah, I didn't hate the second one. I'll watch it still, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the third one. No, obviously the first Hangover is the best, but
yeah. I'd be curious to revisit part 3 just to see if I like it. I doubt that I will, but
apparently there's supposed to be a little scene that they wanted to shoot at the end of maybe not the end, but sometime in Horrible Bosses 2, where they were going to have the three characters, Jason Sudeikis, Charlie Day, and
Jason Bateman
are walking out of the bar where Mother Effer Jones is, and while they're walking out, apparently the Hangover people were walking in to meet Mother Effer Jones, but apparently they couldn't get everyone in on the same schedule to do it.
That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, I would have loved that.
That would have been a nice little thing.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
Yeah, it's before we get into our actual picks, we each have three movies we're going to be discussing. Before we get into that, though, why do you guys think there isn't like some weird shared universe? I mean, that's all the craze now, is like expanded universes, shared universes, kind of overarching thing, like storylines and universes and everything. Say universes more times. But I wonder why. Like, we've established that yes, comedy sequels, comedy franchises are cash grabs pretty much by definition. But why don't they try to franchise it out more in terms of, zany shared universes, I guess? Is that even possible? Do you guys think that would be possible?
It's probably possible, but when you're talking about shared universes, you're talking about a lot of properties that have been around for decades. And a lot of comedies are, original may not be the greatest word to use when talking about comedies, but a lot of them are just, one-offers and don't have decades of storylines to build upon or fan fest to work on. You got Marvel and DC, of course. You got all kinds of material to work for to make a shared universe. But with comedies, it's not a whole lot of intricate backstory with comedy universes. So a lot of them are just like, here's the movie, and we'll see where we go from there.
Right.
I agree with that. That's in the same vein that I was going to say, because a lot of comedies are like low budget, and I mean, even if you're someone like Todd Phillips, who did Hangover, or if you're Judd Apatow or the Farrelly brothers, whoever, you're probably only going to get $20-30 million to make a movie. You're not going to get a ton of movie, and you're not going to get a ton of money, and you're not going to really. You're just trying to get the one movie made because it's hard to get the one movie made.
Right.
Comedies are really hit or miss, and they're probably some of the biggest gambles as far as genre goes is a comedy, because it's like you said, it's such a subjective thing. You just never know what's going to be so funny when you're reading a script. I think once you start filming, you can kind of get a feeling like, hey, this is going to be a special kind of comedy here. But I think just from the production side, it's hard to really, take something as ambitious as a shared universe in a comedy world into a pitch, if you will, and actually get it funded, because they're like, no, this is, if it fails, it's gonna, So
yeah, that's true.
There have been a couple that have done it very low key, like Kevin Smith's movies all occur within the same sort of universe.
The View Askew universe.
Yeah, the View Askew. So
I just imagine a bunch of listeners like screaming at us, telling us the View Askew universe, because that is the one shared.
But it's very low key. I mean, it's you have to be a really you really have to watch those movies to see where different character names come into play, and it's usually something like, oh, my cousin's sister so and so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not exactly as intricately drawn as like a Marvel universe, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the Farrelly brothers too, to a lesser extent, they have all their movies usually take place in like Rhode Island or even in Me, Myself, and Irene. They like even make a reference to the trucker in Dumb and Dumber.
Seabass.
Seabass. At the very end, he
interesting.
Like one of the Rhode Island state troopers, Jim Carrey, goes, and Seabass, and nods his head at him. So, Farrelly Brothers done to a lesser extent, but View Askew definitely is tried, but nothing to the context of Marvel.
Yeah. And that's probably the most ambitious form of a shared universe in terms of comedy movies is the View Askew universe. Mm-hmm. And that's something that he just kind of, more like little Easter eggs and cameos and stuff.
He kind of stumbled into it.
Yeah, and there was a... even like back with the Sony leaks and stuff, there was talk of 22 Jump Street and Men in Black. So, I guess they are kind of thinking about that.
I don't know if I'd call that a shared universe more so than just like a crossover.
Yeah.
Like the Jetsons and the Flintstones doing show.
Right. I think it's with the anticipation of making more movies. I don't know. But yeah, so we each have 3 movies, and we're going to dig into them. And since we were just talking about Me, Myself, and Irene and Dumb and Dumber and all that, I'll just go ahead and jump off with my first one if you guys don't mind.
Go for it.
Sure.
So I watched this movie last night, 20 years after the original Dumb and Dumber. The Farrelly brothers released Dumb and Dumber 2 last year.
Well, don't forget about Dumb and Dumber.
Did they make that one, though, or was that somebody else?
That was not them.
I was going to say, I didn't think that was...
it wasn't that, but it was the same.
It was
universe.
the same. Yeah.
Same universe.
Well, for those Dumb and Dumber purists out there, this movie negates that. It doesn't follow the canon of Dumb and Dumber.
Throws out the extended universe.
It does. So this movie was not good. I really did. Have either one of you guys seen it?
No.
I flat out refuse to see it.
Okay, yeah. So, and that's smart because the original movie, like I really, really enjoyed it. I loved it. When it first came out, I was 7 or 8, something like that. Mm-hmm. I probably saw it like 2 years after that. So I was like,
was it that long ago? Was that,
yeah.
94?
94?
94, yeah.
Oh yeah. So I saw it and I loved it. I was right at that age where like the stupid, dumbass humor was like right in my wheelhouse. And but the magic of Dumb and Dumber is that as I grew older and rewatched it and everything, I still found the characters really endearing. And they're ridiculously stupid. They're really over the top. They're dumb, obviously, but you still root for them and you get behind them with their dumb antics and everything, especially when they get into a situation where they could potentially be killed.
The Seabass situation.
Yeah. So Dumb and Dumber 2 kind of follows a similar kind of plot. They're going across the country to find Harry's daughter that was given up for adoption, and they stumble into this plot that they are potential danger could befall them on this journey. And there's something about this movie that even though I cared about these characters in the first movie, I wanted to watch them die in this movie because the humor, I don't mean that in like a really morbid way. It's just like I had nothing to root for these characters for. I didn't find them endearing this time.
Which is funny because they're basically the same characters.
Exactly. And they do the same, they do this similar antics. Jim Carrey is he's like forcing it a little too much. It's kind of, and maybe it's because they're 20 years older themselves. And I mean, they've both aged fairly well, but it's kind of different to see them in their, how old are they? Like
probably in their
50s, early 50s, late 40s.
And they've all done, they've made a couple of misses, but they've done a lot of like legitimate work since Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they've had really big careers and everything. But I mean, just seeing them now, maybe it's more sad to see them do this, perform this way. But even that's giving it a little too much credit, because the jokes just don't land that well. Like they follow this. I'm not going to pick apart the logic of the plot of Dumb and Dumber 2, but it's just very weak setups for them to go on to this journey and all that. It's dumb. It's really like you can't think too much about it. But once, like, for example, they get to a house of a friend who they feel like they would know how to find someone to get contact with the daughter, basically. So they go to this old friend's house, and then they talk to his parents, and it kind of is slowly revealed that the guy died, and they're just really obnoxious and very insensitive about it in kind of their goofy way. But it's more like, not necessarily, it's kind of mean-spirited, and it just didn't feel like the characters Lloyd and Harry from the first movie. Mm-hmm. And it reached a point toward the end of the movie where I just didn't feel like watching it anymore.
I felt that way watching the trailer.
Yeah. It was bad.
Did they rehash a lot of the same jokes? That's the way the trailer made it look like. It's just,
they did quite a bit. There's a couple things that landed pretty well. Like I actually it got a nice little chuckle out of me. But there's a lot of the same music cues from the first movie kind of played out here, and it's less of an homage and more of a, hey, remember how good we were? At least that's my take from it. But
that's a shame.
Yeah, for the most part, it just, I mean, like, for those 2 or 3 scenes that are pretty okay, it was more like, it was just more stupid humor. Like, stupid humor, but without the endearing aspect of the characters. Like, there's, they have a bike, and Harry is on the back of the bike, and Lloyd is riding the bike, and so they're like, why don't we just take a bus? And then Lloyd's like, well, they won't let me have a bike. And then Harry's like, and this is all in like the first third of the movie, so it's not really spoiling anything, but Harry's like, well, they have bike racks on the front of the buses now. And then cut to a shot of a bus with them on the bike on the front of the bike rack running, and like, it's not funny. It's like, I kind of,
nope, that's hilarious.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, I saw that and I was like, no. Like, it was kind of like yeah, I didn't like it. So yeah, I'd be curious to see what you guys thought of Dumb and Dumber 2, but I would not recommend you guys spend your time watching it.
I might watch it, and out of nothing more than just to see how pitiful it was.
Yeah.
I'll definitely see it at some point.
Nice.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't ruin, because I still love Dumb and Dumber the original. Mm-hmm. I just hope it doesn't ruin it for me. Yeah, and I'm kind of the thought that I don't think that a sequel can necessarily ruin the original, or at least I'm trying to think in that respect. So while I said that I hope that these characters died in this movie, if I go back and watch the original, it'll still have it for me. I'll just block this out of my mind. Entirely, pretty much. I will say that Rob Riggle was pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, I like Rob Riggle in just about everything.
Yeah.
Even that cop movie that you apparently enjoyed, but I hated. But
cop.
The other guys?
No, that's an amazing movie. The one where the guys pretend to be police officers. Let's Be Cops.
Oh, Let's Be Cops. Did I like that?
Well,
I thought it was okay.
You thought it was okay. I liked it.
Hated it.
Really?
So
I liked it.
I think it was a squandered opportunity to showcase the acting talent of its 2 leads, and it was just weak overall.
Yeah, weak sauce.
Yeah. So, Fekkes, do you want to do your first one? Yeah,
I'll start off. I'm going to do order of to me, which was the most successful and the least successful of these. So I'll start off with Ted 2. First of all, I love the original Ted. Of course, it's ridiculous. McFarlane.
McFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane. Jesus. but it's his humor. It's almost, you might as well just cut and paste some of the characters from Family Guy into the original Ted. But it's hilarious. It's ridiculous pop culture nonsense and a talking teddy bear that smokes pot. So for me, you couldn't really miss with the original Ted. I was apprehensive when they said Ted 2 was coming out, especially after the fail that was A Million Ways to Die in the West.
That was so bad.
It was horrible.
So yeah, I was apprehensive, and you can argue that Ted 2 is a lot of the same of Ted, which it's kind of true, but to me it's still a lot of the points hit, and it was still hilarious to me. I mean, yeah, you're still talking about a live teddy bear that smokes pot, but the premise is, again, it's ridiculous, but for me it works. If you haven't seen it yet, Ted is now married to Tammy Lynn, the girl from the grocery store, and it's a pretty hilarious setup. Kind of morbid, but they're arguing, and they're having this whole domestic dispute in their apartment, and it gets kind of violent, but it's funny because it's this human versus this teddy bear. And they're throwing beer bottles and all this kind of stuff, and they finally come to the conclusion, well, we have to save our marriage, let's have a baby. Which it's hilarious because that's the kind of thing that gets made fun of a lot when it comes to Maury Povich relationships,
right?
But
so depressing,
right? So obviously they can't have a baby. So they want to adopt, and somewhere along the lines, they can't adopt because they decide that Ted is not legally a person. So the whole premise is Ted trying to get a legal status as being a person. And in the midst of all this, Giovanni Ribisi from the first one is back in it again, and he's a janitor now for the toy company that created Ted. And so he proposes to the toy company. He's like, "Hey, look, let's back this lawsuit and make sure Ted becomes an inanimate object. That way, we can just take him and we can dissect Ted and find out what really makes him tick, and we can make all kinds of Teds."
Jesus.
So, and it's funny because the Giovanni Ribisi storyline is kind of in the background the entire time until the very end. So the most of the movie is focused on Ted trying to get his humanship established with the help of his I can't remember Mark Wahlberg's character in the movie, but the pot smoking lawyer and Amanda Seyfried, which she does a really good job. I've always thought she was decent, and she was good in Loveless and everything else, but she's good in the comedy too. But the interaction between Ted and Mark Wahlberg and Amanda Seyfried, to me is hilarious, and even the background stuff with Giovanni Ribisi to me is hilarious because he's so awkward, and you don't want to watch because he's a train wreck, but he does such a good job of being a crazy train wreck. Yeah. And I kind of miss his son. And from the first one, his son was hilarious. I was kind of hoping for him to be in it, but he wasn't. But to me it just hit all the good marks again, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And one of the best parts for me was towards the end, the whole thing comes to a head at New York Comic Con. Okay. So you're talking my world now. So they always make the ridiculous jokes of pop culture, and now you're in a Comic Con, which is great.
Right. Yeah.
So you have one character from the original, the guy that plays Joe Swanson's voice on Family Guy. I can't remember his name. But
Patrick Warburton.
Yeah. He's now dating the guy that played Worf on Star Trek.
Okay.
Wow.
That's right. He had that whole arc in the first one. Okay.
Yeah. So they're at Comic-Con now. Just randomly happened to be at Comic-Con when the whole Ted issue is coming to a head. But it's hilarious because the guy that plays Worf on Star Trek is dressed as a terrible Worf for Comic-Con. And the guy that does Joe Swanson's voice is dressed as a terrible version of the Tick, who he played in live action.
Right, yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And so their whole thing is they're at Comic-Con to make fun of the nerds. So they go around just beating up all these nerds at Comic-Con dressed up as the Tick and Worf from Star Trek.
Wow.
And it's hilarious.
Nice.
That's pretty funny.
So to me, that part really hit the mark for me. And of course, it all comes to a ridiculous conclusion, where Ted can finally become, well, maybe I shouldn't spoil it.
Right.
But it's hilarious. I read a lot of mediocre to bad reviews of it, and I get what they're saying. Yeah, there's a lot of rehash, but there's nothing in Ted 2 that if you didn't like from Ted 1, you wouldn't have liked in Ted 2. So, which may be lazy writing on Seth MacFarlane's part, but to me, it hit, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a really solid sequel, and maybe I just love that type of humor too much. But I'm 31 years old, I can do what I want.
Right. Tiny, you didn't see Ted 2, did you?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Yeah. When I saw the first Ted, it took 2 viewings to really kind of appreciate it. And even then, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I just thought, it's pretty funny. So I'm curious what I'll think of that, especially after just the disaster that was A Million Ways to Die in the West, which, as a small tangent, then we'll go to Tiny's first one. I heard a podcast about reviewing, might have been /Filmcast, reviewing Ted, or A Million Ways to Die in the West, and they said that they wonder if this is the kind of movie that, I think one of them said like that, they wonder if that's the kind of movie that will get a cult following like later on and be like kind of appreciated later, because the humor is really, really dumb, but maybe it'll get like some kind of following. It hasn't yet, and I don't see that happening, but I wanted to get your guys' take on that real quick.
It's only been a year, maybe, I guess. I don't know. I guess I've never seen that kind of phenomenon in my generation where a really terrible movie kind of, gains a cult following. My generation wasn't the Rocky Horror Picture Show, so I don't know. Troll 2 maybe the best.
I mean, like a cult following, like Airplane would be my go-to thing, but I think I don't know if that was successful in the theater or not. But like a genuine like comedy following, like Office Space kind of thing. Because but I don't know how there would be an audience for that, because that movie was just not good.
I'd have to hear somebody say something good about it.
I have no idea. Yeah, I pretty much echo what Fekkes said. I don't know. Yeah.
If that were a bet in Vegas, I wouldn't take that bet. So
fair enough. Tiny, what's your first one?
I'm gonna go with the youngest one, if you will, on my list. You guys kind of went with the younger ones too. I'm gonna go with This Is 40.
Nice.
And it's sort of a weird choice because it's kind of an unofficial sequel. I mean, the 2 main characters in that movie are obviously playing the same characters they played in Knocked Up.
Right.
There's no way around that. They're in the same house, and it's just the same characters, and not much is really different. But it's not, it's technically a sequel, but it's kind of not. I guess self-contained. Yeah. It's not Knocked Up 2 or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it was.
Didn't use a condom again.
Knocked Up to the street. Go ahead, Tiny. Sorry.
But yeah, it's this movie kind of gets a lot of crap, and I think it does because I think the audiences of the 2 movies are so different. Because Knocked Up was really appealed to people in their late teens and early 20s and mid 20s maybe, who were kind of clinging on to irresponsibility and not being like a true adult and taking care of yourself and being financially responsible and just kind of embracing that and having fun with it. And of course the characters grew throughout Knocked Up, but it kind of celebrated that, and that's where a lot of the comedy was generated in that first movie, and so it appealed to that generation and that demographic. But obviously it's right in the title for This Is 40. It's for people who are 40,
right.
approaching 40, and their kids are becoming teenagers and
Lost fans.
Lost fans, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The kids are becoming Lost fans. Like every kid should be. I'm genuinely serious. I love that show.
I know.
Go ahead, sorry.
And so, yeah, I think the audiences are just so different that, I think a bunch of people who are fans of Knocked Up came to This Is 40 thinking there was going to be something, because people are dumb, thinking there was going to be some kind of similarity, but they're just totally different subgenres of the comedy genre. And so I think the movie suffered for that, and it caught a lot of flack for that. It got kind of mixed reviews. Some people thought it was good, and of course it's a typical Apatow movie, which we talked about it when we talked about Trainwreck a little bit.
20 minutes too long.
Yeah, way too long. I love the way that Pat put it from the Nerds You're Looking For. He's like, I'm not sure Judd Apatow has ever been in an editing room before.
I thoroughly enjoyed that comment.
Yeah, I was jealous of his prowess on that. Yeah. I wish I could credit that with mine.
Yeah, that was a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
I don't think he has.
Seriously.
Yeah, and so this one was too long, and there was so much that could have been cut out, and it certainly has its flaws. But even seeing it in 2012, I mean, I was 25 at the time. Mm-hmm. I connected with a lot of it and thought it was really funny because I know people who are in their late 30s or 40, and I was a teenager. I know what it's like to be a 13-year-old who's trying to grow up, and how much you kind of hate your parents and want to be an adult and never want to be at home and don't spend time with your family and all that. And, I connected to it associatively, I guess. Obviously I've never experienced all that. But I thought it was endearing the way, this family was so self-aware of its flaws and kind of it was about family in a different way than Knocked Up was. And I respected it for that it didn't dwell on everything from the first movie. And I don't know, I thought the acting was great. I thought there was some fun writing. I thought some of the more dramatic parts were really pretty well acted and well written for the most part. And I laughed at it a lot. I thought it was really funny. I connected with Paul Rudd's character so much because I'm driven nuts. I loved all the music stuff because he was like a purist, and he loved he's like he likes good music because it's good. He doesn't like stuff because it's you can dance to it or it's got a really good beat or whatever. And I love that scene where he tries to play I think it was like a grunge song. I forget who it was. It was like Pearl Jam or something, and then like his wife and his two daughters turn on Nicki Minaj, and they're like, I was like, oh my god, I want sons. It was like I connected with his character so much in that respect, and I don't know, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. I think it gets a little too much flack.
Did you rewatch it recently?
I haven't watched. I think I watched. I've only seen it once, maybe.
Okay, so, I was just curious.
Maybe twice.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I liked it, and I think it was a fun way to kind of be a sequel, but be totally reinventive.
Right.
They didn't rehash anything. They just kind of stayed in the same universe, if you will.
Yeah.
To an extent. It's
kind of indicative of Apatow's method of filmmaking. Like, he kind of takes certain aspects of life, family life, and single life, even in his earlier movies and stuff. And it's kind of like a progression. If you watch, it's a progression from the 40-Year-Old Virgin to
Funny People,
and This Is 40, and even a Trainwreck, even though he didn't write it. But it's kind of an interesting trajectory there that it covers different, very very different aspects of life and family and relationships and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And I do want to mention that you did bring up This Is 40 on the second episode of The Obsessive Viewer.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's in the title of it. I don't know what you said about it then, but I'd be curious to go back and listen to that. And
I
see
probably
what you
hated it.
I think you might have disliked it, and I'm kind of curious if that's it's been 2 years, and I kind of wonder if it's like you're in a different place in your life. So
I probably need to see it again.
No, I kind of wonder if it's affected your opinion of it.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Fekkes, what do you think of This Is 40?
Well, I'm not allowed to watch it yet. Me and my wife both want to watch it, and we always forget that it's on HBO. But I want it. We're both really pumped to see it. We just haven't got around to watching it. So.
Wow.
I thought you were going to say that your wife told you, like, we can't watch this until we're 40.
This is 40, Robert. This is not 31.
That's funny.
No, I have high expectations of it just because Paul Rudd. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that guy could play a statue, and I'd probably relate to that statue. Like, that's a clever way to do it, man. Paul, yeah, well,
right. Nice. Great. I'll have to revisit it too at some point. I kind of want to go back and watch more of Apatow's stuff. Just I've seen all of his stuff, but I would like to see it again just to see what I think of it now.
That's funny. I was actually thinking about that the other day, wanting to revisit Knocked Up, just because it's been so long since I watched that, and just kind of want to have my thoughts on it now. It's like 40-Year-Old Virgin to me is always going to be good, but I could see myself going back to Knocked Up and not being as enamored with it as I originally was.
Oh, me too.
Right.
But yeah, I want to revisit that.
Yeah. So this is 40, and my next one for this topic is, I'm trying to decide which one. I'll go reverse chronological order, I guess. Horrible Bosses 2. This came out, was it last year?
Yes, last year.
And I meant to read my review on Obsessive Viewer for it, but I didn't get around to it. But to refresh myself. But I just recently rewatched it. What I've been doing is, when I edit the podcast, I set my laptop on my lap on my couch, and I just watch a movie in the background with the closed captioning on while I edit. So I watched Horrible Bosses 2, and man, this is a good example of a comedy sequel that takes what was good about the first one and expands it, but keeps it grounded in the rules of the first one. Like, it's a very well done comedy sequel, in my opinion. It has a lot of the same kind of things. The inclusion of Jennifer Aniston felt a little kind of forced in it a little bit, but I felt like it was still a good inclusion in the script. And one of the things that I liked, and this might be a tangent, but in the first movie, I know that a lot of people kind of thought that, or at least from what I read, a lot of people thought that Colin Farrell's character was a little too over the top.
Yeah,
and I loved his character.
I did. I loved him too. I thought he was fantastic. Like, he was over the top, but he was.
Yeah, but he was great. I don't know. He was one of my favorite parts. Of the original.
Just like, I was thinking about that today when I was thinking of the shows or the movies I wanted to bring up, and I just kept thinking in my head. The way that he says his special little magic chair. But yeah, anyway, so the thing about Horrible Bosses is that it's contingent on the villains to be a good movie. Like, it's still, you still have the three main leads run the show and everything, but they need convincing villains and good villains. And Horrible Bosses 2 doesn't take the same approach as the first one, which is refreshing. It's not a retread of it. Like, they even set up at the end of Horrible Bosses, they set up like new bosses that, they kind of give the hint, like, well, maybe they'll be, killed. But this is a whole new setup, and they're self-employed, and they have this whole kidnapping plot that I thought just breathed life into the sequel and separated it from the first one. And there's a lot of genuine comedic moments out of it, especially when they plan the heist or plan the big. I don't want to give away. Yeah, I don't want to give away what it is, but like plan out the big crime, and the camera cuts to this really like well shot, well lit like sequence that like feels like you're in like a legitimate crime movie.
It's very Oceans.
Very yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was very satisfying in the end. I mean, and it added Christoph Waltz and Chris Pine, and like the turn in Chris Pine's character when the plot is that they want to kidnap him to get money, but the turn when he kind of gets on their side, I guess that might be a spoiler, but I mean, I apologize. When he gets on their side and gets behind them on that, like that's like just pure comedy from him, and I really loved it. I need to buy it too. I borrowed it from my sister like months ago. But yeah, what'd you guys think of Horrible Bosses 2?
First of all, I loved it, and Chris Pine impressed me. I did not see that kind of comedic range with him. It was like, yeah, he's quirky, and funny, but not in a ridiculous sort of way. And I thought he really he worked well. I feel like Christoph Waltz was underused. Because I really enjoy him in just about everything I see. And when he was in it, he was good, but yeah.
And he was also just kind of a more straight villain. He didn't have like that.
He didn't have any like great, really comedic moments
that, like,
for me.
Quirk to him or anything.
But the three main characters, they work well together. pure chemistry with them. So I mean, you love watching them. And yeah, I agree. The movie did a great job of adding to what worked from the first one and just making the second one its own. So
absolutely. Tiny, what'd you think?
I haven't seen it yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I want to though. I like the first one.
Yeah, I'll have to loan you my sister's DVD. Yeah, I'd be very curious what you think of it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and to speak about the main leads, the three leads. I mean, just those three. I don't know how you can find a better like trio of comedic actors. Like, I mean, like I really really love Jason Sudeikis. Just he has that kind of just asshole, kind of that wry kind of persona to him, and it's like it plays off of Charlie Day and Jason Bateman so well in these movies. And I don't know if they'll do a third one or if that's even in discussions or anything. And I don't know, after seeing what the writers, I know that the writers of the first one is John Francis Daley and his writing partner. I don't know if they wrote the second one, but they did write Vacation, the new Vacation movie. And after seeing that, I'm not sure I want a Horrible Bosses 3.
I'm gonna see that, but I don't want to.
Don't pay money. I mean, pay as little money as you can for it.
Because $1.50 Redbox.
Yeah. That and Fantastic Four.
You know, it's funny saying that you wonder whether or not they'll make a third one, because after the first one, when I heard they were making a second one, I was like, damn it, no, you're going to ruin it. And now, you know, I saw the second one, I loved it, but I'm still under that same impression. Like, if I hear them say 3, I'll be like, damn it, no, you 2 good ones. All right? don't do it, but we'll see. I mean,
and I will say that the opening scene of Horrible Bosses 2, when they, I won't say what it is or what they say, but when the news, to set it up, they're on the news to pitch this product that they've made. It's like a local news thing, and when one of the hosts asks where they can find this product, Jason Bateman looks at him and says a few words, and like the impact of what he says, and then the realization of what he just said, and the realization of their brand being this word that sounds like this, it was so hysterical to me.
Good.
Like I saw it at an advanced screening before it came out, and like throughout the rest of the movie, the first time I saw it, the rest of the movie, I was laughing about that like first joke intermittently throughout the rest of the movie. It was that funny. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
so,
I want to see it.
Yeah. And I've just built it up for you, Tony.
And now you're gonna hate it.
Yeah, I will.
So Fekkes, what's your next one?
The next one I'm gonna be talking about is Anchorman 2, and I felt this was odd that it was made to begin with, because Adam McKay, he made a lot of comments after Anchorman 2 wrapped about he'll never do a sequel again, and and that's fair. Someone like Adam McKay, I don't see him doing a lot of sequels to begin with, but this came a good amount of years after the original Anchorman, and
10 years.
Yeah, and almost to the point where who are you making this for?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, maybe if when the original Anchorman came out, maybe I would have been like, yeah, give me Anchorman 2, but you go 10 years and I'm like, okay, I guess. So I mean, I walked into this movie apprehensive. So, and I kind of walked out with a feeling of, okay. I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing, but it didn't disappoint me like I really felt it could have. A lot of the problems I had with it, you know, ironically, I'll say this because, you know, what I loved about Ted 2 is the fact that they added, you know, a lot of the same jokes from Ted 1, but they did that again with Anchorman 2, but I just don't think it was as effective. Like the whole newscaster fight at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Like it started off fine, a lot of good cameos, and then it just kept on adding adding, and I'm like, okay, all right, great, fine, come to the fight. So And it was all right, but at that having that be like the end of it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth for it. So, but leading up to it, I felt like there was a lot of good stuff into it. Like getting the gang back together, I thought that was a lot of fun, especially when they go visit Champ. And he's got the chicken restaurant, but he's selling nothing but fried bats.
Right.
I thought the whole part was hilarious.
Yeah.
And see, Brick's funeral part, I thought it was good. So to me, there was a lot to like about the movie, but again, it's just nothing really just hit home run like the original one did.
Right.
Like they tried. The little tiff between Ron Burgundy and Jack LeMay or LeMay or something like that.
Yeah, Cyclops.
Yeah, so
James Marsden.
James Marsden.
That was kind of entertaining, but again, it wasn't as good as Ron Burgundy against Christian Applegate's character.
Yeah,
I mean that's the scenes they had together in the original were amazing, and it didn't hit that high point. So
I agree.
It's like I bought it still because I enjoyed it enough, but I don't know. It was disappointing.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it as much as perhaps I could have, or as much as everybody else did, but I just kind of walked out with a shoulder shrug, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. It felt really bland, really mediocre, and I think when I wrote my review of it, I was going through the archive of Obsessive Viewer, kind of going through for my own personal reasons, and I remember like when I wrote that review, I'll probably cut this out. When I wrote that review, it was during a phase where I was like, I wanted to have a clever title for every review, which was a horrible idea. But the title for that review is "It's Anchorman, not Anchor Mediocre Sequel."
God, that's awful.
So dumb.
Wow.
But that bit of comedy in that review was probably better than a lot of the stuff that didn't land for me in the movie. It really was hampered by just disconnected storylines. I thought that like Brick having like that romantic interest and was it Kristen
Wiig? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was just like it just derailed the whole movie
completely. To me, that was almost like a means to get Kristen Wiig into the movie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I agree with that, but at the same time, I thought the comedy was pretty funny. Just those two interacting, I thought that was actually kind of funny the way they.
Sure, they're both very talented. I think it would be
to this day. I'm still like, I like the way your skin wraps around your skull. Just like the way she said that. I don't know. I thought it was funny.
Sure, maybe if I revisit it, I might enjoy it. But I think that they would be better in a different movie because I was already
go with that.
I thought that the one problem that I had with it, like it's a minor thing, but plot wise, it kind of had a big part of the plot is how they are, how they discover like trash news, like kind of just meaningless news stuff, which that alone is fine. Like they invented the 24-hour news cycle, or they invented like the filler news pieces for 24-hour news cycles and non-news cycles and stuff. But I mean, that's fine. That's okay. That can bring some pretty decent comedy. But that's basically the premise of the first movie.
Yeah.
Like the big climax of the first movie is to get Panda Watch. And it just felt like, okay, like it felt weird that they would do that. Like they would retread that kind of storyline to an extent, but while presenting it as if it's something new and entertaining, I guess.
Well, it's 24 hours, so it's brand new.
Well, sure, yeah, but I don't know. And I did like the jump to the 80s. I guess that could account for the it was the 80s, right, or 70s? It's the 80s. This one was.
No,
Was that
I think it was still in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that new era, at least.
Yeah, the new era from the 70s to the 70s.
Okay. Yeah. That new era from local broadcast to cable 24-hour news. But I guess that can account for the time jump, for the amount of time in between entries. But I don't know. A lot of it just didn't land for me. It felt kind of just. I think the problem is that the first movie is such a standout of comedy in terms of having so many just incredibly talented personalities on screen. It's clear. I don't know how much of it was improvised, but a lot of it seemed pretty tailored to the actors' sensibilities and everything. And I feel like that's something that can really only be like lightning in a bottle. You can't catch it twice.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Harrison Ford, like I liked that Harrison Ford was in it, but
I forgot he was in it.
Well, and that's the thing is like why? Like he wasn't used to a hilarious comedic event. It was just like, well, here's Harrison Ford, he's your boss, and he's kind of a dick, but nothing more special than that, right? Yeah. But I did like the stuff between him and his son. I thought it was kind of funny, like him, teaching him. Yeah. So Ron's son. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The interaction between him and his son, I thought was pretty funny, but yeah. I unnecessary is
a little long
much,
too.
It was. Yeah. It was. So
agreed.
Yeah. So that's Anchorman 2. Tiny.
Yes.
What's your next one?
My next one, again, to go in chronological order, reverse chronological order. Meet the Fockers, the sequel to Meet the Parents.
Yes.
Yeah, it just, man, really not good. It's one of those situations where the filmmakers felt the need to amp everything up and like go to the next level of craziness, and it just went too far. It went beyond. It went beyond the subtlety and the relatability of the first movie, because most of us have been in the situation where, we go and meet our significant other's parents, and we've all felt the stress of that and what that's like, and so we could all relate to that. And this sequel completely got away from that. I mean, there's no way they could recapture that, but they could have gone. They could have recaptured it to an extent, of having your girlfriend's parents meet your parents. There's some stress there. It's not quite as stressful, but I don't know. They could have just taken it a different direction. There was no need for Dustin Hoffman's character to like clothesline Robert De Niro at one point, and there was no reason for Barbara Streisand to talk about all the men she slept with and be overly ridiculously sexualized. It was just dumb. I mean, I really didn't. It was stupid to take it to that level of over the top comedy when the first one was so grounded and it had some semblance of realism, even though that cacophony of so many things going wrong at once is kind of a little unrealistic. It was still within the realm of reality, and the second one just didn't have that. It was, Robert De Niro and his wife Blythe Danner, they drive there in their RV thing, and like a big RV, and at some point like Jack, Robert De Niro's character, like pulls out this side panel and goes in. And he's like talking to he like links up a satellite to somebody at the CIA, and he's got like his little like bunker inside their RV where he conducts his cloak and dagger stuff. I'm like, really? Yeah, he has that built into his RV? It's like a command center.
Yeah, I remember that though.
Yeah, it's like something out of a G.I. Joe cartoon that a villain would have. It was just so over the top that it lost any endearing quality that the first one had. It really just didn't. Oof. It didn't capture that at all.
That I think I saw Meet the Fockers in the theater.
Really?
Yeah, I think. I don't remember any of it, and that's saying something because Meet the Parents. I mean, that was like for a while. That was like the go-to movie on HBO in the Hurt household when it was on HBO, and it was like I knew that movie backwards and forwards, and to be so underwhelmed by Meet the Fockers and so it was forgettable to me.
Yeah.
Very forgettable.
Just the I just love the first one. It's just so hilarious. I mean, how the part where they're having dinner at the table and there's the classic line, "Well, I have nipples, Greg. Could you make me?" And then he tries to open the wine bottle and the cork hits his mother's ashes, and then the cat uses it. All those again. That doesn't happen. That's ridiculous, but it's within the realm of reality to the point where it's absolutely hysterical.
Right.
Like that's still probably one of the funniest things. The first time I saw that, I remember we rented that from Blockbuster and we watched it as a family, and my dad was crying with laughter, and because my dad really loves physical comedy, and as do I, as does any red-blooded normal human being, and we couldn't even, we had to rewind it because we were laughing so hard we couldn't really hear the dialogue that well, and there was absolutely nothing even close to that in the second movie.
Yeah.
So it was a shame how much that fell off between movies, and the second one was just so unnecessary. And even if they were going to make it, they could have dropped it down a notch or two with the ridiculousness and made it much more grounded than over the top. So.
The RV is the one thing that stands out in my memory from that movie.
Yeah.
Because I just remember just being flabbergasted. Like, why would he have this?
Yeah.
This makes no sense.
Right. Ugh. Well, and the grandson was ridiculous. Like he was super smart, and I can't even remember. They were trying to do their weird, make him a super intelligent kid, and doing their weird exercises with him.
Then he learns how to say shit from Ben Stiller, and
sort of funny, but it's just not grounded in reality. It's just over the top. Yeah.
That's a shame. Did either one of you watch? Was it Little Fockers?
No,
hell no.
I forgot that was even a thing.
Yeah, I think I got maybe 4 minutes into it before I was like, nope.
I wonder how many of the characters come back for it.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm curious.
But I heard that it was just horrendous. So.
I can imagine.
So, yeah. I'll have to do a franchise review on the website.
That's a good idea. You should do that.
The trilogy. So my final pick for this topic is American Pie 2. So as of this recording, Straight Outta Compton kind of just unseated American Pie 2 of all movies to be the highest grossing mid-August R-rated movie release or something weird like that. But I thought it was funny because American Pie 2, you wouldn't think that would be it. That's why it has so many qualifications for that unseating. But anyway, American Pie 2 was released at a time in my life when I was in high school, and it's, I don't know, American Pie, I watched that in 8th grade, and when I was maybe not far too young to have watched it, but I was too young to really notice or catch some of the humor. One of my favorite stories is that the scene where Thomas Ian Nicholas, is that his name?
Is that the guy from Rookie of the Year?
Yeah. Where he's going down on Tara Reid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the tongue tornado scene.
Yeah.
And her dad is walking up to her room to tell her about dinner, and then she says, I'm coming. As he's about to open the door, he's like, oh, okay. I didn't, 8th grade Matt, I had no idea what the hell he was talking about, what was going on there. So, that next week, I was in, health class, and I just start dying laughing because I realized,
She was coming.
Yeah. So anyway, so American Pie 2 holds kind of a special place in my heart because I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was one of those first movies, kind of right at the time where I was really kind of forging my tastes as, in terms of going out and seeking out movies on my own instead of just seeing whatever is there. So I kind of grew an attachment to American Pie, the first one, and to see the second movie, just to revisit those characters and see them at a different place, and the kind of friendship elements of it I really enjoyed that aspect of it where I think the character's name is Kevin.
Kevin's the guy played by he's Tara Reid's.
Okay, yeah. He's all stressed out because he wants them to stay friends after high school and all that, and it was just I thought that was a nice little thing to add into the movie. And the whole idea of them renting a beach house for the summer, how awesome is that?
That's everybody's
that's the dream.
Like everyone saw that and was like, man, that's the greatest idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I really enjoyed American Pie 2. It did hit some of the same notes of the first one, and I did appreciate that they started the movie with them going to a high school party and realizing like, hey, this is pretty lame. We don't belong here. Like Jason Biggs has that nice scene where he's like, are we
the cool college kids at the party, or were we like the loser older guys at the high school party?
Exactly. So and then when it goes from like that's kind of acted as if it's like, okay, well, this is us not going the same route as the first one, but it doesn't retread a lot. But I mean, there is that one scene in the middle, that is kind of the raunchy scene.
You're talking about when they're in the house.
Yeah, the lesbian scene. Yeah. But I'm trying to think of how to phrase it as it's like the wow. Oh, okay. They have the one like the token raunchy scene. Like they had the Shannon and Elizabeth masturbating scene in the first one, and then the second one has the lesbian scene. It's like it was like they were like, okay, how can we do it better for the sequel? Okay, let's have 2 naked women.
At the time, I thought it was a great idea.
Oh, it was a fantastic idea. Yeah. I have the wallpaper on my computer, but no, it's a fantastic scene. It's executed really well. It's kind of seeing it as an adult though, and realizing like it's kind of creepy. Like
it is very creepy.
Yeah.
I just remembered it. Okay.
Yeah, they're in a closet watching this happen. And, yeah, even the first movie too. Like they're just filming this. Like this is not okay, guys.
Nowadays, that's a story on Dateline NBC of why a 16-year-old's a sexual predator.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the last extended potpourri we did a couple weeks ago. Me and Mike were talking about that when we were talking about Scream. Go back and check that out because it has a plot line kind of similar to that where I'm like, these characters are kind of borderline pedophiles. Not borderline pedophiles, but they're running the risk of being on the list.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, and I found American Pie 2 to have some surprising, endearing moments. Like I said, the friendship thing, and also Jason Biggs's growth throughout the movie, where he kind of realizes like, oh, the band geek girl is, well, spoiler alert, when he realizes that the object of his affection isn't the one that he's been chasing. And that's kind of a trope for the rest of the movies. I don't even remember American Reunion. I'm not even going to really grace that with a thing. But like the 3 movies, American Pie 2, and American Wedding, they each have like one of the guy characters kind of coming to the realization of like falling in love kind of thing. And I kind of like that for a raunchy teen sex comedy. Right. And it's a shame that the franchise didn't really. It kind of petered out after that. They had the direct-to-DVD releases that I tried to watch like a couple of them, and they were kind of like one of them has like one of Stifler's like cousins or something out of college, and like his whole like his arc is like he's filming the girls like in the shower and everything and selling them, and like he's like the like we're supposed to believe him that he gets the girl at the end. I'm like, no.
He gets the jail sentence.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what the hell? But it's funny because and this is my last thing about American Pie 2, but I think part of the reason why it didn't really have, because would you guys agree that it kind of just went off the deep end after American Pie 2? What did you guys think of American Pie 2? I've been talking a lot.
I liked American Pie 2, especially at the time when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I was in high school or middle school, but it. That's right when those movies hit you anyway.
Right.
So I thought it was good. The comedy was good. At that age, I was like, boobs, great.
Right.
Yeah.
So I probably haven't watched it in probably a good 5 or 6 years, but I remember after even watching it as an adult, it's like, yeah, it's a good movie. It's still a fun movie.
Yeah. Tiny, I know that you weren't crazy about this genre movie, and then I forced it on you when we were in high school. So what'd you think of American Pie 2?
No, I mean, I never connected very much with the franchise. But I remember distinctly seeing this movie in the theater when we were barely freshmen in high school. We were 14 years old. And I thought it was one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. I laughed throughout so much of it, and that's the last time I saw it.
Wow.
Yeah, I never saw American Wedding, and I never saw American Reunion.
You're not missing anything.
Yeah, I think part of, I don't know how much of this is due to, I don't know, but American Pie 2 is kind of, it was, the first two movies were released at a time where kind of that, I don't know exactly what genre I'm not a music guy, but kind of like that pop punk, kind of poppy
Blink
rock
182.
music. Yeah. That brand of music was like massive at the time. So they had a bunch of like music needle drops in the movies, in the first two movies, that were like of that brand of music, and it played well with the depiction of teenagers in that time period and everything, and it kind of becomes like a little bit of a time capsule. But once American Wedding comes out, they're older. The music isn't like that. That brand of music, that genre of music, is kind of not as prevalent in pop culture as it was at that point. So I think that may be part of the reason why those other two movies faltered. Another reason why is because they were just not good. American Wedding just completely destroyed the character of Stifler. Like it was offensively bad how they wrote him, because it was like they wrote him as if he
was a caricature of himself.
Yeah,
and
it was
over
like
the top. Him showing up at the engagement party and the school bus.
Yeah. Ugh, yeah. It was awful. So that's American Pie 2. I really liked the second movie, and I really enjoyed it. And I need to revisit it. I haven't seen it in a while, but I've seen it so much, and it was such a big part of my high school years of watching movies and everything that I remember most of it just by memory. So yeah, Fekkes, does that bring us to you?
It does.
Yes.
The last one on my list is Major League 2, and the first Major League, it's one of my favorite baseball films ever. To me, it's hilarious. It's a good rated R comedy. A lot of good scenes with Charlie Sheen and Tom Berenger. I love this movie. Oddly enough, it really captures baseball for me, and it's a funny movie all around. And then they made Major League 2 like 5 years afterwards, and it was really weird because they made Major League 2 almost a kid movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not rated R anymore. If you go back and watch it, all the jokes are really toned down, not sexualized, not hard language or anything like that. And which is weird because the first one has a lot of kind of raunchy or even a adult humor in there regarding and the second one kind of makes jokes out of the characters that were kind of taken seriously in the first one, like Roger Dorn. He was kind of a goof in the first one, but you still took him seriously. In the second one, he just becomes this ridiculous character that is just ashamed that he's no longer in the big leagues anymore, that he's in the office and he's trying to relive his old days playing ball, and it doesn't work because he's just being too goofy about it. And like I said, all the jokes are really toned down. I remember seeing this as a kid in elementary school and not having seen the first one yet, and it was okay because it was not a rated R movie. And like they put Randy Quaid as one of the guys in the outfield now that are the hecklers, and he was kind of funny. But overall, the movie just did not work for me because it just was not the same vein as the first one, because they really went back and made it. I want to go back actually and see if it's rated PG or PG-13.
I just looked it up. It's first one's rated R, second one's rated PG.
Yeah, see, and then you ruin it. I mean, you can't, like, the success from the first one is due to the hilarious kind of raunchy and vulgar comedy, and then you go make the second one and you have these kid characters like the new catcher. He's a goofball from Midtown USA, Farmville USA, and he's a country bumpkin. And Charlie Sheen has become, I'm now a successful baseball player. I'm a sellout, and Willie Mays Hayes is replaced with Omar Epps instead of Wesley Snipes.
That's a shame.
It's such a disappointing sequel. I mean, they go back, and it's the same premise of the first one. They go back to sucking again, and they have to do well in order to keep from moving.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same premise, and it's almost like a remake for a PG audience, and it's
man,
it's awful. If you've not seen it and you've loved the first one, just don't waste your time.
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen the second one, and I don't really remember the first one, so I can't really speak to it. But Tiny, have you seen the second one? I know you just recently saw the first one.
Yeah, I have not seen the second one, but the first one, it just had like all new meaning to me. I saw it a few weeks ago, and my girlfriend, her father is from Canton, Ohio, and it's Eastern Ohio, and it's similar to Cleveland, and where the first movie takes place. Yeah. And my girlfriend's father like loves the Cleveland Indians, and nice. I just saw so much of like him and throughout the movie, just the way that people talk, like it's weird, like people from Western Ohio versus Eastern Ohio are just totally different. It's just totally different worlds. It's like the East Coast just bled into Ohio, and they have that accent, like the part where the construction workers like, these guys fucking stink, and then later on
who are these freaking guys?
Who are these fucking guys? And then the next time he's like, these guys ain't too fucking bad. Like the way he says it. And ironically, it's the janitor from Scrubs.
Oh, nice.
Who says it, and like. I just, it had new meaning to me for that. And my girlfriend's dad, probably my future father-in-law, he just,
congratulations.
he loves that movie to no end and quotes it all the time. And I saw it at the Indianapolis Museum of Art. Their amphitheater, their outdoor amphitheater. They put this
on
nice.
Summer Nights series on a Friday night. We put out a blanket and a citronella candle and had some drinks and just watched the movie like it was a picnic, and it was just such a fantastic time. There's a line in the movie that I forgot was in it that is one of my favorite lines ever. It's the part where the older pitcher says, "Are you trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?"
Oh Christ! Don't go start a holy war.
That is just the best. That was so funny. I laughed. I got looks when we were watching it at the amphitheater because I forgot about that line, and it was like I'd heard it for the first time, and I was just laughing for like 10 minutes. It was so great.
Up your butt, Joe Boo.
I need to see the first one.
It's a terrific movie.
I'm gonna have to buy it because it had a whole new meaning for me. I loved it.
I guess they made a third one too.
I was just
Back to the Miners. I never saw it because why would I after seeing Major League 2? And it's just, I'm sure it's awful. So
yeah. I'm sure it is. Tiny, do you want to run us out for the topic?
I'd love to. This is the one I was most excited to talk about. It's the movie Next Friday. And the movie the reason I wanted to talk about it is not because it was so not good. It was kind of funny. I mean, I think a lot of people actually kind of like it. Mm-hmm. But the reason I wanted to talk about it so much is because it's an example of making a sequel and just completely leaving behind everything that made the first movie special. Mm-hmm. 'Cause the movie Friday is...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, sorry. I just realized the plot of Next Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friday is it was a cultural phenomenon. It turned into a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't overly successful when it first came out, but it's one of those movies that just absolutely took off on home video and within a matter of years became hugely successful. But the reason that it's so good is because that first movie, the Friday, had such an incredible message in it, and it was a time. It came out in 1995, I believe. That's when the whole Rodney King incident and the LA riots were still relatively fresh in people's mind. That was in 92, and the movie came out in 95. But it was kind of a continuation of the movie Boys in the Hood, and it kind of revolved around the whole race culture and socioeconomic culture of Los Angeles that a lot of the world didn't really know about. And Boys in the Hood shone a light on it, and then the Rodney King incident turned it into a national controversy. And I think Friday took a lighthearted approach to it that we kind of needed. It was just such an important movie in that respect because there's still so many moments throughout the movie where they talk about how the way that our young culture has advanced is a step in the wrong direction. There's a great conversation between Craig, played by Ice Cube, and his father, where his father sees him putting a gun in his pants, and he's like, your mother and I never would have moved into this neighborhood if we'd have known you needed a gun to walk down the street. And he tells him, back in my day we fought, and everyone now is just afraid to catch an ass whooping, but you might get beat, but you're going to live to fight another day. And it just kind of stuff like that riddled throughout the movie and placed amongst the really quality comedy and really funny jokes in the movie really elevated that movie so much more than it really should have been. And I think that Friday is just such an important movie. And then the sequel next Friday was just all about the jokes. And it doesn't even take place in South Central Los Angeles.
Right.
It takes place in the suburbs, and it's a really selfish movie. It's similar to the first one, where the first one they're trying to get $200 so they don't get killed by a drug dealer, right? And the second movie, they're trying to steal money from their drug dealing neighbors so they can pay their taxes. Really, that's the plot of the movie. It was just so far removed from the charm of the first movie and the endearing quality. I've used the word endearing a bit too much, but that's what it is. It's such an endearing movie that the comeuppance of the main character in the first movie was so satisfying, and it was a great story. And the second one just completely got away from that. And there's some jokes in there that are fairly funny, but it's just a dumb movie, and it's just not. It's just so it doesn't deserve to have the word Friday in the title, in my opinion.
That's exactly how I felt about it.
Really?
You put it perfectly. Because that was always my thing about Friday. It was funny, but it was riddled with good little messages. And then the next Friday just forget it.
Yep.
Craig, he loves the weed now, and we're gonna do all this silly crap. And
yeah, I mean, the first movie they had to, none of the background characters or none of the main characters could wear red clothes because they shot it in a Crip neighborhood, and they were afraid that people in the movie were going to get beat up or killed for wearing red. That's why Chris Rock's character wears a blue shirt throughout the movie.
No kidding.
Because that's the Crip color.
You mean Chris Tucker?
Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker. Who'd I say?
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. Sorry, I'm not racist.
Don't apologize to me.
I just heap praise upon a very important film in the African community. I'm not racist.
It's really funny. I don't think I've seen the original Friday since I was like a teenager.
Oh, wow.
Way back. So
really?
Hearing you talk about it that much, everything, it's a weird thing in my head. I remember the movie very clearly because I was a huge fan of it back when I saw it. And once hearing you in that context, it's I can feel the perspective shift in my head and my memory.
Yep.
And that's right. Yeah.
Man, I watch that pretty often, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. Wow.
And I just read this piece of trivia today. I didn't really realize it at the time, but the character of Craig, played by Ice Cube, in the opening scenes of the movie, he's actually wearing the exact same clothes he wore at the very end of Boys in the Hood.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's in it. The director John Singleton the director of Friday was F. Gary Gray.
Yeah.
John Singleton did Boys in the Hood. Right. F. Gary Gray he's made some really great movies, as has John Singleton, and
he did Straight Outta Compton.
Yes, he did.
Yes, yeah, he directed that. But yeah, it's their voices through their art, they've voiced the controversy in South Central Los Angeles throughout the past couple decades, and they've been the best in the business at it. And to see the franchise of Friday go the direction that the sequel went to is just a damn shame. I mean, it's kind of turned into a love fest for the movie Friday, but
right.
It's just
but you can't talk about what makes Next Friday so bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's a contextual love fest.
Right.
Did you see Friday After Next?
I didn't even bother seeing it.
Me either. Yeah.
I saw it. I think I don't remember it, but yeah. They were security guards, and I'm a security guard,
right.
So but yeah, the first movie is just incredible.
Right. Yeah, it's a great movie.
So yeah, that rounds us up for our main topic. Before we move on to Potpourri, here is a promo for Shocktober in Irvington, which, as I said at the top of the episode, you can find more information at shocktoberinirvington.com, as well as tickets are on sale right now. You can buy your tickets online at shocktoberinirvington.com. Here's the promo.
Join the Obsessive Viewer podcast on October 16th, 2015 at the Irving Theater in Indianapolis for The Obsessive Viewer presents Shocktober in Irvington Part 2. It's a one-night event screening of short horror films from local artists J.P. Leck and Synapshot Productions. There will be giveaways, raffles, interviews with the filmmakers, and so much more. All proceeds will go directly to the Irvington Historical Society. Go to shocktoberinirvington.com for more details. And prepare to be shocked.
And yeah, so now we're going to go on to Potpourri. And for those first-time listeners, Potpourri is the portion of the podcast where we talk about basically anything that we've watched lately or anything that's coming up or any news pieces that we want to talk about. Anything we want, as long as it smells good. And Fekkes, since you are our guest, how about you get us kicked off on Potpourri?
Sure. I'm going to be talking about, and I'm normally a strict movie guy, but occasionally I find a TV show that I'll talk about, and in this case, I'm going to be talking about Ballers on HBO. Now, I'm going to start this off, and I've read the reviews on Ballers, and I recognize that right now it's not getting great reviews. But I enjoy the show, and I enjoy the show even looking at it and seeing all the faults in it. Like, if you don't know what Ballers is about, Rock, Dwayne Johnson, plays a retired football player who now works for a financial company trying to get the investments from current football players through that financial company. And him and Rob Corddry are kind of partners in this. And it's him dealing with all the football players and some of the things that the football players in the NFL kind of do on their off time. The show kind of wraps up its problems a little too neatly, too quickly, and I don't have a problem with it. I say that, though, and I can say this, kind of ashamed of myself, but I have a huge man crush on The Rock.
He's fantastic.
He is great.
He's great.
I love him just about everything he does, and I was a huge fan of him back in the WWE as well. So watching him on this show, I think he does a great job in the show as well. It's kind of a simplistic show. It kind of goes for, like I said, some cheap laughs here and there. But I like the premise. I like the style, and I like the cameos from like people in the sports world. They had Victor Cruz on there in a couple of episodes. They had can't ever remember the name, the basketball player for the Miami Heat, Birdman, the guy with all the tattoos.
I don't know. I don't watch basketball.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Chris Paul?
Is John Stockton, I think, was his name? No, but they have a lot of cameos from the sports world and ESPN that's a lot of fun. And I think it's not a horribly serious show, but it's a light show and it's fun. And I like watching The Rock kind of, he's in his element to me in this. Like, he's not stretching far for a character here, but he does well with it. And I like the show, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. There's only one episode left in the season, and again, I think it's going to wrap things up a little too neatly in a nice little bow. But for me, the characters are likable, and it's just fun for me. I realizing that I'm probably in the minority in this, but
I think it got renewed for a second season.
Good.
And I want to point out, first of all, that when Fekkes, when you were saying all the sports people, you were looking directly at Tiny and completely not even acknowledging my presence.
I'm sorry.
So thank you for that vote of confidence.
What are your thoughts on Victor Cruz in the coming season?
I think that he is really good at running with a ball in his hand.
Well, at least you got that aspect of it. Okay.
Right. And bouncing it.
I'll admit I don't know who Victor Cruz is.
Oh, yeah.
He's a receiver for the New York Giants.
I thought maybe he was a villain in an early season of 24. But anyway.
He was actually the villain in Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Nice.
Nice. Respect. But anyway, I saw previews for Ballers on HBO Go, and it didn't do anything for me. It's just not my thing. But it seemed like, and I think that this is a this is a sentiment that's shared across the internets, but I feel like it's more lifestyle porn in the vein of Entourage.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
I can't make that comparison because I've never watched Entourage, but my brother made that same comparison, said it kind of looked like Entourage for the sports world. And, hey, you know what? That's fine. I enjoy it. So
I think your brother may have actually tweeted at me about that.
He does like to tweet at people. So.
That's what it seemed like to me, too. It seemed like it just seemed too reminiscent of Entourage, so that's why I didn't check it out.
That's fair.
But it does look like it has a few layers of douche removed.
Right.
Well, don't be so quick on that because there
a few layers, not all of them.
I was going to say,
is Jeremy Piven anywhere in there?
yeah, actually, he's played by Rob Corddry. So
How many times per episode does the word bro make an appearance?
not as much as you would think.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
not as much as you think, but
Jeez.
I might check it out eventually, but we'll see.
I'm gonna probably pass on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
do what you want.
Yeah. So that's Ballers. It's currently available on HBO and HBO Go and HBO Now and all that. Tiny, what do you got for Potpourri?
Yes, I finally watched the movie Foxcatcher. I had been, it came out last year. It was part of last year's Oscars. I had been meaning to see it forever, and it just took me so long to finally see it. I was so excited about it because seeing Steve Carell, I remember seeing the first teaser for it and seeing Steve Carell in that makeup, using that inflection on his voice. I was like, what in the hell is this movie? And then I realized he was playing John DuPont and Channing Tatum was playing an Olympic wrestler. I was like, it's based on a true story. I was like, I've got to see this movie.
Bear in mind, I haven't seen it, so no spoilers, please. Yeah.
Okay. And also Bennett Miller was directing it, so I was so stoked for it, and unfortunately just never saw it until recently. I really liked it so much.
Nice.
I remember Mike saying he wasn't crazy about it because it was it's a very slow paced movie. It's not for a movie about professional athletes, people who are Olympic athletes. It's not that action-y. There's not a lot of action and not a lot of excitement. But I think the real draw of the movie, the excitement, is just played out in the dialogue. It's played out in the interaction between these two characters at first and then three characters eventually. It's just the tension and the potency of the relationship, the emotions and the tension between these three characters. It's just so palpable and just so well played that you just can't I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I was like on the edge of my seat, like it was a thriller. But really it's mostly just people talking. I was just so blown away by the writing and the pacing, despite the fact that, like I said, it's fairly slow, but it's just the way these characters evolve and the way their relationships evolve. That's where the true pacing comes in the movie. It's just incredible the way it all moves and how everything evolves. I was just so impressed with how that was written, and probably most importantly by how it was all acted. Channing Tatum, I think this is the closest he's gotten to an Oscar-worthy performance.
Oh, without a doubt.
He was fantastic. There's a few scenes in particular where he loses a match and he has a kind of a stereotypical reaction, sort of like it reminded me of the movie Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story or whatever, where he just continually keeps ripping sinks off the wall in frustration, because that's kind of a stereotypical thing to do, just punch a mirror or whatever. It's kind of stereotypical, but just I really appreciated the way he played it. It looked so genuine, and just the best parts were just the interaction between Channing Tatum and Steve Carell, just their symbiosis of how they just fed off one another was just so amazing to watch. And I kind of wish I could have seen the real life version of it, just a fly on the wall between those two characters or those two people. It was just so well done. So Channing Tatum was amazing. Steve Carell, yeah, his best performance by far.
Nice.
He absolutely earned his Oscar nomination. What he had to go through to play that character, I was just like, I don't think I could do it. I mean, he just had to be such a two-faced and such a such an odd person and kind of work in this pressure that there's this pressure that people like that feel. They're heirs to an immense fortune and a really famous name like the DuPont name. Mm-hmm. There's just so much pressure to be successful, and you need to get married and have kids to pass on the fortune and keep the family name going, and that has a tremendous effect on people, and it was a very negative effect on John DuPont, and just to see him embody that was incredible. But I think almost the standout was Mark Ruffalo. He is just so unbelievably good. His capability to transform into so many different characters. To go from Bruce Banner into the Hulk, it's incredible how he does that in those movies.
Yeah, no CGI.
It's just so crazy.
So natural.
No, but Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo had like almost no experience wrestling with wrestling, and I totally bought both of them as Olympic wrestlers. I was just so blown away by all the performances, and the movie's kind of long, but I guess when the director Bennett Miller put it all together, the original runtime of what he actually wanted the movie to be was almost 4 hours.
Jeez,
I'd watch that.
I would watch it too in a heartbeat. It ended up being about 2.5, but I loved every minute of it. I'm not sure if I would have given it any of the Oscar wins. I don't know if it was quite. I think some of the other movies stood out over it in their respective categories, but the way everything came together, I was just so impressed with it. I really, really loved it.
Nice. Yeah. Fekkes, you saw Foxcatcher?
I did. I went to go see it at Keystone back.
God, I love that theater.
I agree. I thought it was fantastic, and as a former wrestler myself, I loved watching the wrestling scenes. They nailed it. I mean, the feel of a match and even the practice. Like, one of my favorite scenes was one of the first scenes in the movie when Mark Ruffalo and Channing Tatum are having their practice by themselves.
They're kind of sparring.
Yeah, love that scene.
It was incredible.
And I won't spoil. If you haven't seen the movie, obviously I'm not going to spoil it. But the climactic scene, like I knew the story going in, but even knowing the story coming in, the climactic scene just really it got me. It was
nice.
It was just so well shot. It was. I don't want to say say anything else, but there was not a whole lot that I had bad to say about it. The one thing I would say is after seeing the movie, I went online and started looking up videos of DuPont, and Steve Carell kind of oversells it a little bit with the accent, but he still knocks that out of the park. He did an amazing job. So everything you said, I'm right with you.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome. I will definitely watch that soon. And, I'm kind of mad because it's not on Google Play for rent. So
I'll figure it out. I wanted to watch it. I ended up just recording it off like Stars or something.
Really?
I was going to rent it off iTunes or Uverse, whatever, but I couldn't find it. So
I'll watch it eventually. Yeah. To round out Potpourri, Fekkes, are we good on time? Are you good? 4 minutes? Okay. Okay. So to round out Potpourri. Wow. To round out Potpourri, I watched a movie on the recommendation of, or after hearing the guys over at Film Schlubs, which is a podcast that I referenced in our True Detective Season 2 bonus episode. They raved about this movie. It's called Ask Me Anything. It's a movie that I'd seen on Netflix previous to hearing them talk about it. And, it's a victim of poor marketing, I guess, or like you see the cover. It shows Britt Robertson, young, attractive female actress, from Tomorrowland and Under the Dome. But anyway, so the cover is her standing in a man's like dress shirt, white dress shirt with a tie on, with a kind of befuddled look, with a disheveled bed behind her. And the plot on Netflix is on a 1 year, deferring college for 1 year, a young girl writes an anonymous blog chronicling her sex life. And so you think like, oh, this is like a raunchy sex comedy. It's not. It's an indie drama, and it is so good. It's I have a review that I'm going to post. That will have posted 2 days ago as of the release date of this podcast. But so it takes this journey, takes the character on this journey through this young girl who is who's kind of dealing with some inner conflict, some like personal issues from her past. She's kind of working through them, working them out without being really conscious of them. And through that, she's like having an affair with this older man, and she has a boyfriend that she's not really into, and she just kind of blogs about like having sex with them and stuff, and being hung up on them and everything. But as the movie progresses, you kind of get more detail about her past and some of the issues that are kind of plaguing her, and it's a really well drawn, like well written and well executed view of this character who's just kind of lost in this limbo between childhood and adulthood, and kind of wrestling with some pretty serious stuff. And it takes a unique. It ends on a unique note. I won't say what happens, but I will say that it blew me away. Like, the ending to it was, I'm very curious what people will think, like what you guys will think if you see it, because it takes such an interesting turn that you could either hate it or you could just be like, this is so effective. Because like from my perspective, I watched it and it like happened and it ended, and I had this just this really, really weird experience where it was about midnight, close to my bedtime. I got up, I was just I felt just really uncomfortable and very just so weirded out by like my surroundings. It's hard to explain, and it's not anything like, it's just a twist, or it's just something that happens at the end just kind of just really stuck with me. And I lost sleep over it. Like, I laid in bed for like a couple hours, just like, it was just such a weird, I was processing these emotions. So it was such a weird experience. And I mean, I kind of got a little teary eyed here and there, just thinking about like the message of the movie and what the filmmaker was saying. And it was just such a rare experience for me. It was very, very interesting. And I will say that I tweeted about it the next day, and I will be, if everything goes as planned, next Tuesday I will be interviewing the writer and director who adapted it from his novel called Undiscovered Girl. I'll be interviewing him for the podcast next week, so that should be up a week from when this episode is released.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to talking to him about it. I will probably go into a spoiler section with him to talk about what, like, the meaning behind what he did. And the thing about it is, like, I heard about it on Film Schlub's podcast, and they raved about the ending, and they did that, and I still had, like, I didn't expect it. Like, I didn't see it coming, and like, I feel like I could build it up to you guys, and you guys, I don't think you guys will see it coming, and I don't know how you guys will respond to it. I don't know if the response I had to it will be something that like other people will have that response to it, but it really hit me. It really hit me pretty. It was a pretty powerful movie.
Nice.
Yeah. Now I have to watch it.
Yeah, I want to see it. I actually want to see it real bad.
Yeah,
too.
Definitely let me know what you guys think, because it's definitely something I wasn't expecting, even though it was built up to me. Like, I still didn't expect it. Yeah, so again, that's Ask Me Anything. It's available on Netflix, and I'm pretty sure you can find it on like Google Play and stuff like that. But it's on Netflix Instant now, and don't let it fool you, because it's not what the promotional material will lead you to think that it is. It's a very strong, dramatic movie about
like 50 Shades of Grey, right?
Oh God. On that note, thank you, Fekkes, for joining us on this episode of The Obsessive Viewer.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always fun.
Oh yeah. Do you have? You don't have like a Twitter account or anything?
I do. It's R.A. Fekkes at, Twitter, whatever.
There you go. Follow him, everyone. R.A. Fekkes.
You'll be disappointed.
All right. Well, it's been fun, guys. Thanks again, Fekkes.
All right. No problem. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. But no, I told some friends of mine that I'm really excited to see Straight Outta Compton, but if they, I'm just really hoping that it's accurate and that there's a scene where Easy is cruising down the street in a vehicle from 1964, and I'm hoping that in that scene he's jarking some bitches and he's slapping a hoe, and that he goes to the park to get the scoop. Yeah, and then Also, I mean, I swear, like I'm pretty okay with artistic license and everything, but if someone in that movie like quotes him despite him having not said shit, I will walk out of that theater.
God, you're a dork.
Anyway, yeah, when I told that to my friend, one of my friends was like, "Are you listening to that song to prepare for the movie?" And I was like, "No, I had to Google the lyrics." So I've never felt more gangster in my life.
Pretty gangster.
Yes,
you are. In an apartment.
Thank you for listening to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at ovpodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast app. The Obsessive Viewer's theme song is An Eclipse of Events and is provided by Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. You can find that and more great music from them on iTunes and like their Facebook page at facebook.com/loudlikemusic. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. You can email the hosts individually at Matt, Tiny, or Mike at ObsessiveViewer.com, or send an email to the podcast in general at podcast@ObsessiveViewer.com. Check out the Obsessive Viewer blog at ObsessiveViewer.com, where we post movie and TV reviews and the occasional editorial about the business of entertainment. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer and follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer, at ObsessiveTiny, and at IamMikeWhite. If you want more obsessive content in your life, check out our sister site, ObsessiveBookNerd.com, for book reviews, author spotlights, and a general celebration of reading. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the podcatcher of your choice. Again, thank you so much for listening. We love you. Be excellent to each other.